Mr. Chair, go ahead.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Richmond Hill. I would ask that we would start this evening's meeting with the reading of the preamble, please.
Today's Committee of Adjustment meeting is hereby held as an electronic meeting in light of the current COVID-19 emergency. The COVID-19 emergency is the emergency declared by the Province of Ontario pursuant to Order and Council 518-2020 Ontario Regulation 5020 on March 17th, 2020, and by the City of Richmond Hill on March 20th, 2020, under the provisions of Section 701 and Section 41 of the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. The Committee of Adjustment is authorized to hold this meeting electronically as a tribunal under the Statutory Powers and Procedures Act, in accordance with the Hearings and Tribunal Proceedings Temporary Measures Act. Due to efforts to contain the spread of COVID-19 and to protect all individuals, city facilities are not presently open to the public to attend Committee of Adjustment meetings. The Committee of Adjustment for the City of Richmond Hill has been appointed by Council to consider applications for minor variance and consent in accordance with the Planning Act. The committee's decision may be appealed to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal. All appeals and associated fees must be filed directly with the Secretary-Treasurer in accordance with the Planning Act. To be notified of a Local Planning Appeal Tribunal hearing, you must request a copy of the committee's decision in writing. Written comments. The public may submit written correspondence regarding agenda matters by email to committeeofadjustment@richmondhill.ca. All written correspondence received by 4:30 p.m. today has been provided to the committee members electronically. Electronic delegations. Delegates are reminded to please mute your microphone or phone and turn off video until it is your turn to speak. Please make sure your microphone is not muted when you begin speaking. Every registered delegation will be provided 5 minutes to speak. If members do not have questions or after all questions have been asked, your delegation is over. Please sign off of Zoom or hang up the phone once the committee has made a decision on your application. You can watch the rest of the meeting on our live stream, and the clerk may remove any delegate who does not sign off of Zoom.
Thank you. Our Secretary Treasurer is Mrs. Jamie Hoke-Herman. Our Assistant Secretary Treasurer is Ms. Linda Asikas. And assisting us this evening from our Planning Department is Ms. Amanda Dunn. Do we have any conflicts of interest this evening, gentlemen? I see none. And do we have any requests for adjournment or withdrawals?
Mr. Chair, we do not.
Thank you. In that case, I will call our first application B003/21 at 17 Pearson Avenue. Do we have any additional correspondence on this application?
Mr. Chair, we do not.
Good evening, Sir Chair.
Good evening.
This is David from Design Plan Services. I will be the agent for this application. Would you like a presentation?
Yes, please.
Okay, no problem. So good evening, Sir Chair and fellow committee members. My name is David Eagleman, and I'm a planner from Design Plan Services. We have been retained by the property owner of 17 Pearson Avenue to present information on this application in front of you today. The application proposes to obtain a consent to sever the existing 30.48 meter frontage lot into two separate 15.24 meter frontage lots and to construct one new single detached dwelling on each lot, while demolishing the existing dwelling on the subject property. To provide background information, a previous consent to sever application was approved by the Committee of Adjustment on July 18, 2018 for this property. The consent to sever application that was previously approved on July 18, 2018 was the same proposal as the proposal which is in front of you today. The proposal requires consent to sever from the Committee of Adjustment again because the conditions tied to the previous consent approval were not fulfilled in the 1-year time frame. A zoning bylaw amendment has also been previously approved for this property in May of 2018 to facilitate the creation of one additional lot on the subject property and to rezone the lands from R2 to R3. A site-specific exception was also included within the approved zoning bylaw for this property, which requires a minimum front yard of 9.5 meters and permits an unenclosed and/or an uncovered porch to project a maximum of 2 meters into the required front yard. The primary reasoning for the zoning bylaw amendment was to permit the proposed frontages for each lot of 15.24 meters, which is permitted in the R3 zone, but not in the R2 zone. The proposed consent is to realize the purpose of this previously approved zoning bylaw amendment, and thus the proposed consent meets the intent and purpose of the applicable zoning bylaw. I would also like to note that through this application process, there have been no objections from any neighbors regarding this application in front of you today, and planning staff have recommended approval of this application as per the staff report issued for this application. The immediate context of the subject site is entirely residential in character, as the lots abutting the subject site on the north, south, and east sides are all single detached residential dwellings. The west side of Pearson Avenue is also entirely comprised of single detached residential dwellings in this area. The proposal is consistent with adjacent surrounding properties, as adjacent lots on Pearson have lot frontages of approximately 15.24 meters and lot areas of approximately 830 square meters. This indicates that the severance of the lot will not create a situation where the lots created are out of place with the existing character of the neighborhood, and the traffic impacts of this proposal will be minimal. The subject property already has 2 curb cuts, as the existing dwelling has a circular driveway, and the addition of 1 single-family dwelling to Pearson Avenue will not fundamentally change the nature of vehicular traffic in the immediate area. The town's official plan designates the area containing the subject site as neighborhoods. These areas are generally characterized by low-density residential areas. Further, the official plan notes that opportunities for small-scale infill development will bring out some changes to neighborhoods as they continue to evolve over time. This proposal, which seeks to replace 1 single detached dwelling on a large lot with 2 single detached dwellings on 2 lots similar in frontage to those to the south and west, is the kind of small-scale infill development that allows a neighborhood to gently intensify while maintaining its existing character. The proposal is entirely within the parameters of development standards established by zoning bylaw 2523 for R3 zones, as well as the site-specific development standards applicable to the subject property. For all these reasons, I am of the opinion that this proposal meets the criteria for consent in section 5124 of the Planning Act, and that this application is appropriate and represents good planning. Should you have any questions at this time, I would be happy to answer them.
Much. Does anyone in the audience wish to address this application at 17 Pearson Avenue?
Here, Mr. Chair, there are none.
And do we have any further comments from planning this evening?
No further comments.
Gentlemen, comments, concerns, questions? In that case, I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Master. Your microphone is muted.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I have unmuted my microphone. I move that application B003/21 located at 17 Pearson Avenue be approved with all the conditions contained therein.
Moved by member Master, seconded by member Gossi. All in favor? I see 5 hands. It's approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sir Chair and fellow committee members. Have a good night.
Thank you. Our next application is application A048/20 at 23 Wildwood Crescent. Do we have any additional correspondence on this application?
Mr. Chair, we received a letter of support from 15 Wildwood Avenue, received April 12th, 2021.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Roy Chan. I'm the representative for the owner of of 23 Wildwood Avenue. We are proposing for a 3-story home instead of 2 due to the condition of the site and the floodproofing of the building. So it is considered a 3-story building instead of a 2-story because the basement where the garage is actually above the flood elevation. So it's sticking out of the ground higher than usual. So we don't call it a basement anymore. That's why we're asking for the variance for a 3-story building instead of the 2-story that's permitted. We're also asking for a maximum deck encroachment of a 2.94 meters, whereas the bylaw only permits 2.5 at the rear of the building. Let's see. It's basically just the rear deck that's actually sticking out of the ground higher than 2 feet, which allows the ground floor, the current ground floor, which is the 2nd floor as per the bylaw definition because of the main basement being out of the ground. So that's considered the 1st floor. So the deck is at the level where the kitchen and the family room is. So that's the deck encroachment we're asking for at the back. And maximum height, we're proposing 9.68 meters, whereas the bylaw permits 8.5. We're requesting for the height variance due to the building having to be flood-proofed and sticking out of the ground a lot higher than usual. So that is what we're asking for in terms of variances. So there's 3 variances that we're requesting, which is the overall building height, the deck encroachment, as well as the number of stories.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone in the audience wish to address this application at 23 Wildwood Crescent?
Mr. Chair, there are none.
And do we have any further comments from planning?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no further comments.
Gentlemen, comments, questions, concerns? In that case, I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Gossi.
You, Mr. Chair. I apologize for the background noise. Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve minor variance application A048/20 at 23 Wildwood Crescent, subject to the conditions in the staff report.
Moved by member Gossi, seconded by member Gandhi. All in favor? Approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Our next application is application A003/21 at 9 Orlon Crescent. Do we have any additional correspondence on this application?
Here, Mr. Chair, we do not.
Okay, and we'll have our presenter. It looks like, oh, there we go.
Hi there, how are you?
Good. How are you this evening?
Good evening, Sir Chairman and member of the committee. Hopefully everybody's keeping safe and healthy.
We are.
Thank you. So the purpose of this application is to demolish the bungalow and to build a single dwelling. We applied for 3 variances. The east side setback of 1.22 meter instead of 1.5. The front setback of 6.08 meter instead of 9.14. And the coverage of total of 33% instead of 30%. So that's it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Does anyone in the audience wish to address this application at 9 Orlon Crescent?
Mr. Chair, there are none.
And do we have any further comments from planning?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no further comments.
Thank you. And gentlemen, any comments, concerns, questions? I see none. In that case, I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Gandhi.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I move that application A003/21 at 9 Orlon Crescent be approved, subject to the terms and conditions laid out in the city staff report.
Thank
By
you.
member Gandhi, seconded by member Duretzi. All in favor? I see 5 hands. It's approved. Thank you very
Yay.
much.
Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you. Good night.
Enjoy your night.
Thank you. Our next application is application A011/21 at 25 Newkirk Road. Do we have any additional correspondence on this application?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have a letter of objection from 316 Center Street East, and that was received April 15th, 2021.
Thank you. And our presenter.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of committee. My name is Amanda Kozlowski from Armstrong Planning and Project Management. I'm here this evening representing Cowie Capital Partners, Inc., owners of 25 Newkirk Road. It's a property currently being operated as a self-storage facility at the northeast corner of Newkirk Road and Center Street East in the Newkirk employment area. The property is surrounded by a variety of employment uses, as well as parking for the Richmond Hill GO train station, some residential adjacent to the GO station and east of a community center, and then a community center and a park. At this time, we are requesting 6 minor variances to support a 4-story addition to the northwest corner of the site. The current site includes 9 one-story buildings and 1 2-story building with visitor parking and a main entry located off of Newkirk Road within the front yard. In order to facilitate the construction of the proposed 4-story addition, 3 existing buildings will be demolished and the visitor parking lot and entry will be relocated to the north of the site. The remainder of the site will be unchanged. We're currently working with staff through a site plan application, and it's through this process that we've identified the need for these variances. Specifically, the variances are to reduce the total number of parking spaces from 152 to 142, to reduce the total number of loading spaces from 8 to 5, to reduce the minimum of width of 2 landscaping strips, one that's located between the visitor parking and the building, and one that's located between the visitor parking and the right-of-way along Newkirk Road. Another variance is to reduce the minimum front yard setback, and the last is to increase the maximum height to 16 meters. The existing and proposed land use is permitted under the official plan and the zoning bylaw, and no change to the proposed use is contemplated. In addition, minor variances must be desirable for the development of the land and be minor in nature. In support of these variances, we completed a parking and loading study to support the reduction from 152 to 142 parking spaces and from 8 to 5 loading spaces. This study identified the actual demand for parking on site is 10 parking spaces and 5 loading spaces. So the reduced parking and loading standard won't create any off-site impacts as the actual parking requirement on site is met or far surpassed. The landscaping buffers, the requirement is 3.05 meters. We're requesting 1.5 meters between the parking lot and the front building, and 0.48 meters between the visitor parking and the right-of-way. This is a requirement because the site is a controlled access site, and in order to support visitor parking, the only place for it is within the front yard. And in order to support a parking space, a legal parking space, and a legal drive aisle, these 2 variances are required. It's also replacing an existing visitor parking space, so the uses are just being moved within that front yard. The required front yard setback is 15.24 meters, and we're requesting a front yard setback of 14.61 meters. This reduced setback is only required in 4 locations where projections in the front elevation have been incorporated as an architectural detail. This detail creates a relationship between the new and the existing facade, improving the overall urban design, and has no negative impact on the public realm. Finally, we're requesting a maximum height of 16 meters, where 13.72 meters is permitted. The proposed height is located at the northwest corner of the site, furthest from the existing residential homes on Center Street East, as well as the park and community center to the east. The proposed height will allow 4 stories of new self-storage use with internal floor-to-ceiling heights as required to facilitate this use. It also allows for an architectural detail in the form of a cap and overhang of windows on the north and the south of east corners of the buildings. In front of you, I believe you have 4 pictures or 4 renderings identified as figure A, B, and C, 4A, 4B, and 4C. These are renderings that depict the height and massing of the new building as proposed. Figure 4A is the image that was identified and submitted with the Committee of Adjustment. And that you'll see the difference between that and 4B is a rooftop screen on top. The current zoning bylaw allows for a 15-foot rooftop screen on top. And at this time, we weren't sure what type of screening we were proposing or where it would be located. Since then, and through our 3rd site plan application, we've finalized the details of that rooftop screening. And so the mechanical equipment has been pushed away from Newkirk Road, and the screening has been brought down to be more representative. So it's actually not visible from the street anymore, and that's figure 4B. You can see that there's a rooftop screen on the top that has disappeared. Figure 4C is pretend you were 20 or 30 feet tall and you were standing now on the south side or on the west side of Newkirk Road. That's the only place you could see where the rooftop screening and this additional height is. And so the permit or the zoning bylaw allows 45 feet plus a 15-foot encroachment, which is an overall 60-foot height on that site, because it permits screening and rooftop mechanical equipment. This building as proposed is 16 meters, which is 2 meters less than the maximum allowable height on this site. So the proposed site is situated on the site such that it provides appropriate transition to the non-employment related land uses to the east and the southeast. It has been suitably designed to improve the public realm and has no negative impact on the neighborhood. For these reasons, it is my professional opinion that the 6 variances being requested here today, both individually and cumulatively, meet the 4 tests as outlined in the Planning Act. I'm available certainly if you have any specific questions about our request.
Thank you. I just have one question about the drawings that I'm looking at. I'm looking at figure 4, minor variance building height.
Yes.
Requested minor variance related to building height. Proposed building height is 45 feet. And permitted building height is 52 feet. I think you've got it backwards.
I think you are quite right. The 16 meters and 13.72 meters are correct, but the feet are definitely backwards. I apologize for that.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Does anyone in the audience wish to address this application at 25 Newkirk Road?
Hey, Mr. Chair, we have the residents of 316 Center Street East.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Hi, we are the owners of the home located at 316 Center Street East, located immediately adjacent from the subject site. And we have had continuous issues around the operation of the existing storage facility on the subject site and feel that the expansion of such use will make the situation worse. We have reviewed the staff report and the variances being sought and believe that the cumulative impact of the variances being sought will not be minor in nature. The primary issue is the intensification of the use on the subject site, which will exacerbate the negative impacts of the facility on the adjacent established low-rise community. A minor variance of 16 meters is well taller than the heights of the existing industrial buildings and the 2-story detached homes in our area. And we would suggest some sort of transitional height to the established community, and such that the height appears more appropriate from the streetscape perspective and provides noise barriers for us. Given that the variances are being sought are for a reduced landscape buffer, we would like to confirm that planning staff will ensure that the appropriate landscape treatment is implemented through the site plan process. Lastly, we respectfully request that the committee establish a condition of approval that would prohibit the individual storage units at the southeast corner being used for automotive repair or garage services. This will ensure that the potential impacts of the expanded use are partially at least mitigated. We believe that this proposal is an overdevelopment of the subject site and is given its contextual relationship to the existing community. We request that the committee refuse this variance. However, in the event that the committee considers approving the subject variances, we respectfully request that the committee at least make changes to impose the conditions outlined above. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to address this application at 25 Newkirk Road?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
And do we have any further comments from our planning department?
Mr. Chair, we do not.
I have one question for our applicant, Ms. Kozlowski. And that is, there has been reference made to the use of the property as a garage repair center. When I looked at the site, all I saw was a bunch of closed doors. Do we have some rules or regulations associated with this storage site that prohibit someone working out of that area?
Yes, Mr. Chair. When I saw that comment, I was shocked, and so I did reach out to the owner, and he assures me that the site is staffed full-time and that there is no use permitted on site apart from storing self-storage and warehouse uses. And so if there are such uses going on, it would be a shock and a surprise to them, but they would be happy to reach out and do some follow-up investigation.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
We should have, yeah.
Do we have any further comments, concerns, questions from our committee members? Mr. Master.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to clarify, is vehicle storage a part of the storage facilities that the owner is providing?
It is actually.
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is Amanda speaking.
And both, yes.
Okay, so I see what's happening. Sometimes people park their vehicles and then they may change tires to them or do something which you're saying is not allowed, right? Any kind of operation on a vehicle will not be permitted. I just want to assure Ms. Williams about that.
Yes, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, if I could, I actually wasn't the one answering that question, but as I understand it, automotive storage is a permitted use on site. For the most part, they are the automotive cars.
Storage.
Pardon me, cars are being stored.
Excuse me, just I would ask that the Williams family please mute their mic so that we can just have one person talking at a time. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we don't have control over that. Sorry.
Okay. Ms. Kozlowski.
Thank you, apologies. Through you, Mr. Chair, we do understand there are cars being stored on site. They're being stored within storage facilities with a locked door. And so anything that's happening behind those doors should be storage and storage alone.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Duretzi, did I see a question? Yes, sir.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify from Planning Department, this question, is automotive repair permitted in the zoning bylaw? I don't think that was a clear answer.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the zoning category permits manufacturing and industrial operations, warehousing and storage uses, but not including scrap or salvage yard. And all uses must be within a fully enclosed building. The proposal before us is for a storage facility, which is permitted through the zoning category of the bylaw. And if there are policies for the storage facility, that would be up to the owner's discretion. But as it stands, the storage facility as proposed is permitted through the zoning bylaw.
Okay, so just to be clear, nothing would prevent a owner that's renting the storage facility from putting a lift inside their unit and doing repairs to an automobile. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I do not see any provision in the bylaw as I'm looking at it currently that would prevent that.
Right.
But I would have to clarify with the zoning department to determine that.
Okay, just to be sure, because I heard you say that so long as it's contained within the confines of that unit, then potentially it could be permitted under the zoning bylaw. So I just want the individual who had written that letter to be aware of that. Just wanted to be certain. The other question I had, and it was just in reference to the site plan to the applicant, it appears as though the entrance on Newkirk now is being moved further north of Center Street, which I think is a good thing. Is that correct?
For you, Mr. Chair, yes, it will be located just south of the north property line.
Okay,
So
great.
it's further away from the existing intersection.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions?
Nope. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Gandhi.
It's just more of a comment than, through you, Mr. Chair, it's just more of a comment than a question. I guess the concern I have is even though it's the bylaw can allow some type of some automotive work to happen, the issue that I'm seeing is that certain things can be done behind closed doors. Certain things need exhaust and you need to have the door open. I don't know if there's a difference between it being closed and it being open. Does that change the usage or the allowable usage of the premises? I don't know, maybe if I can get that answer from the planning department.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I apologize, Mr. Gandhi. Could you repeat that question?
So basically, when you have through you, Mr. Chair, so basically when you have a body shop or some automotive work done, behind closed doors, you can do so much, but sometimes you need to open the doors to let exhaust through, to let some air in. Once they open up that door, does that change now? And now they're working on the vehicle or doing something with the vehicle. Does that change the usage of the property in the bylaw, or does it just mean that it's still allowable to do?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I do want to make clear the bylaw does identify automotive type uses and body shop uses. This zoning category, industrial class zone 1, does not permit those uses. The uses permitted, and I already identified them, as manufacturing and industrial operations, warehousing and storage uses, which shall not include scrap or salvage yard. It does not identify specifically automotive uses or body repair shops. If there is a question with regards to whether the storage unit itself is allowed to store automotive uses, I do not have the answer to that, and that's something that would have to be confirmed with zoning.
Thank you.
If I may make a comment, it seems to me that a storage unit is intended to store something. If you're going to work on a vehicle, you need a garage. And you're not going to be able to, and this thing is not being designed as a garage. So anybody that's having to do that, I suspect, would find themselves contrary to the rules of the storage facility. And I'm hoping that Ms. Kozlowski could confirm that for me.
Yes, Mr. Chair, absolutely. It is not a permitted use, as for the operators would not allow it. If it is happening, it's happening without their permission and against their specific rules and regulations.
Thank you. Mr. Master.
A quick comment. Would it be possible for us to put a condition that, or we just assume it's illegal, so we don't have to put a condition that you cannot repair automobiles in this facility? Just ask.
I would refer that question to our Secretary Treasurer, but it would seem to me we would start getting into an area that we don't normally get into if we're going to start inserting clauses like that into our conditions. But maybe Ms. Hope can tell us.
Mr. Chair, in answer to your question, if the use is, If a resident feels there is a use that is not permitted, then they are more than welcome to contact the bylaw department and they will go out and they will investigate.
So there's no really, I think it's inappropriate for us to include that condition. Thank you.
Yes, I would agree.
Thank you. Okay. Any further questions, comments, gentlemen? In that case, I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Duretzi.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I would move that minor variance application A011/21 located at 25 Newkirk Road be approved, subject to the conditions in the city's staff report.
Moved by member Duretzi, seconded by member Master. All in favor? I see 5 hands. It's approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next application is application A012/21 at 9471 Young Street. Do we have any additional correspondence on this application?
Mr. Chair, we do not.
Thank you. And we'll turn it over to our presenters.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, my name is John Penichetti. I'm representing Torview Properties regarding this application. Very simply, we are applying for a minor variance on the amount of space allowed for medical uses within the commercial space in question. Currently, there's a maximum of 400 square meters. Over the last 4 years, as we've attempted to lease our 5 vacant units, we have had, especially during these pandemic times, virtually no interest in traditional retail uses that we would expect to have located in this space. What's happened is a physiotherapist is very keen on coming into this location, and that would take our medical uses slightly over the 400 square meter maximum to 460, or just under 460, and that's the reason for our request. I think you could understand that during these times it's been very difficult. We still have 5 vacant units, and we would very much like to have this tenant in our space. They're a great use for the residents that live above and the entire neighborhood, and we respectfully request that this minor variance be approved.
Thank you. Does anyone in the audience wish to address this application at 9471 Young Street?
Mr. Chair, there are none.
Thank you. And do we have any further comments from planning?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no further comments.
And gentlemen, comments, questions, concerns? Mr. Master.
This is a question to the planning department, Amanda. Am I right to assume that medical uses have a higher parking requirement than other uses? If so, I'm just concerned that by increasing the medical uses, will it impact the parking on the site? That's my question.
Through you, Mr. Chair, medical office do have their own parking rate. From what I understand it, staff have reviewed the proposal and have identified there are no concerns.
Okay, thank you. I have no concern.
Thank you. Any further questions? In that case, I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Kikasi.
For you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve minor variance application A012/21 at 9471 Young Street, given the conditions listed in the staff report.
Moved by member Gassi, seconded by member Gandhi. All in favor? I see 5 hands. It's approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next application is application A006/21 at 64 Orlon Crescent. Do we have any further comments? Sorry, do we have any further correspondence on this application?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. And we'll turn this over to our presenter.
Hi, my name is Sam Spagnolo. I represent the owners of 64 Orlon. We have reviewed the planning staff report, and we agree with all the conditions. This is typical rebuild of the area, and it is a reverse pie on a corner lot. So that's why we're asking for relief on the exterior side yard setback and the front yard setback. We'll turn it over to the committee through you, the chair, if there's any questions.
Thank you. Does anyone in the audience wish to address this application at 64 Orlon Crescent?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
And do we have any further comments from our planning department?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have no further comments.
Thank you. Gentlemen, any comments, concerns, questions? In that case, I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Master.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I move that application A006/21 located at 64 Orlon Crescent be approved with conditions contained therein.
Moved by member Master, seconded by member Gandhi. All in favor? See 5 hands. It's approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And that, Madam Secretary, is our final application.